Welcome to Expedition Networking, a special segment of the Networking RX podcast. I'm Frank Agan, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections, and your host for this program. For those of you who are familiar, on the Networking RX podcast, we share information and have conversations with experts, such as authors, researchers, and social scientists. And all of these programs are aimed at helping you learn how to become better at building professional relationships and understanding why they work. In this Expedition Networking segment, however, we're going to bring on successful entrepreneurs and unique professionals and explore their networking adventure and learn how they used relationships to create lasting success. Today on Expedition Networking, we have Brian Reinbold. Brian is with Braveheart Radio and Bravehearts for Kids. He's a servant leader. He's a facilitator, and he leverages the power of story, to inspire and empower. And he connects leaders with their audiences through hosting the Bravehearts Radio show, and is a mission specialist at Bravehearts for Kids. Well, Brian, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Frank. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I need that booming radio voice. Come on, don't let me down.
That's my professional microphone working there. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, what I wanted you to start out doing is kind of share your story. How did you get into this? How did you get into this, and how did others help you along the way, or how are others helping you live this mission? Mission.
A wonderful question about how others helped us along the way. I think of the great quote from Dale Carnegie. He said, you could take away everything I have, but leave my people, and in 5 years I'll have more than I have now. Something like that, because it's everything we do, everything we accomplish, we get done with and through people and our connections with people. And so I think the genuine relationships that we have with people have always been important. And it's interesting, this last year, it's almost like it became fashionable, or people came to realize, oh yeah, relationships are important, and how important they really are.
Yeah.
The Bravehearts for Kids story begins for me back in September of 2008. I was at the street fair in Bismarck, North Dakota.
Oh, and, there you go.
You have certain foods at street fairs that you kind of come to expect, funnel cakes and turkey legs and stuff like that. There was a booth that said buffalo berry crepes, $3. And I thought, man, that sounds interesting. So I said, yeah, I'll have one of those. And there was a guy at the back of the booth. He turned around. He said, hey, I recognize that voice. And that was my friend, Adrian Jacobs. And Adrian had been a friend for, I guess, going to 40 some years now. He was working at this booth for Bravehearts for Kids. It was a new charity, only a couple of weeks old. And they were selling these buffalo berry crepes to raise money to aid families that had a child with cancer, pediatric cancer organization. Adrian's son, Jeremy, and daughter-in-law, Amy, down in Houston, have a daughter who's in high school now. And at that time, she was kind of a miracle child, having survived brain cancer. And they had started the organization to help families also have a positive outcome when they find out that their child has cancer. And so got involved with them, provided some advice. At the beginning, they were something like a family, like a mom and pop charity, I think of it, and there's a lot of charities that start out like that. They've got an idea and they want to help somebody, and they have pancake breakfast, spaghetti dinner, they raise money. Do something like that. And then
I call them garage not-for-profits. Like, people start their businesses out of their garage.
Yeah.
And that's really kind of the same concept. Is I'm just have a spare room, or I got room in my garage, and I'm going to start this not-for-profit. And next thing you know, it's bursting out of the garage.
Yeah. So I'd get an opportunity to work with a lot of people that are starting up nonprofits. And one of the first questions would deal with people is do you really want to start a nonprofit of your own, or would you be more effective working for or with someone who already exists? Because there's a lot more to a nonprofit. Well, many people are starting nonprofits that have never been in a business of any kind before, and nonprofits are still businesses, and they may not have profits as we describe profits, but they must have a margin in order to maintain their mission, and that's really critical. So, Bravehearts for Kids was a mom and pop spaghetti dinner nonprofit for about 6 years, and then became a 501c3. And my wife and I were asked to join the board, and we did. And she subsequently became the executive director, the chairperson of the board. And I took the title mission specialist because, Jeremy, the fellow down in Houston, his dad used to refer to him as my son, the rocket scientist. And I thought he's probably a really good student. I didn't realize that what he really meant was that he's one of the people that runs NASA.
Oh,
and so, yeah. So I like the NASA connection and mission specialist.
I've been called a rocket scientist too. It's slathered in sarcasm.
Yeah, it ain't rocket science. You've heard that one, right?
Yep.
So we got involved with the board. I took the title mission specialist, and I realized that I've been doing that my whole life, helping people figure out what their mission is, helping organizations with their mission, with their design. We talked a little bit about earlier. You and I talked a little bit about the idea of board guidance and doing something I call the idea hierarchy. Where we do brainstorming, and we did this for the Bravehearts for Kids board a few years ago. And on a Friday morning, 7 people came up with 900 good ideas in the brainstorming. And in a nonprofit organization, well, any organization, you find a lot of the energy of, hey, I got an idea. Someone should. And so that we had 900 someone shoulds. We had 900 good ideas. And by the end of the second day, we had knocked it down to 3 that we decided to put our love and our energy and our talent and attention to and make them great ideas. And those were, one is a mobile app for the smartphone. The second is that's a location-sensitive resource guide for families. The second is a connection with the National Day calendar, because April 28th every year, National Bravehearts Day. And then the third one was to say, you know what, we could get more people involved in this idea of doing good anywhere does good everywhere. This idea of charities working together and synergy that emerges from when people of goodwill do good work together. And so we thought, Braveheart is actually someone who has the courage and purpose to be of service to others. And then that triggered a little memory in my mind, said, you know what, there's that guy Winston from the Voice America Radio Network that I'd talked to a few years ago. I think I'm ready for the radio show. And that was the nexus of Bravehearts Radio. The idea of stories about people who have the courage and purpose to be of service to others.
And it all kicked off with buffalo berry crepes.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. Adrian is fond of bringing up that. I still remember that day when somebody stuck his head under that window at the booth. Yep.
Well, that's interesting. I think I know the answer. You go to high school, you didn't grow up saying, hey, I want to do this. It just kind of happened along. You did?
No, I don't know. I'm agreeing with you. It's like, you just reminded me, because I mentioned the National Day calendar.
Right.
And my friend Marlo Anderson, a few years, 12 years ago now, he decided, it'd be kind of a hoot to have something, a National Day calendar. So he started that, and until COVID hit, he was spending his weeks traveling around the country helping people celebrate their national days.
Oh,
and
interesting.
I described that as one of the tables I missed on career day.
Well, you and I are both of the age. We won't need to get into that. Well, I guess I'll date myself by saying this, where career counseling was, let's get you to a college. But as far as careers, here's some buckets. You got an accounting bucket. Here's a teacher bucket. Oh, you're a woman. This is very sexist. Here's the nurse bucket, but that's how it was.
Yeah.
But there was none of this. Hey, you're an entrepreneur. You want to do this. You're good with tools.
Yeah.
We'll get you a job working for somebody who's got a mechanic shop. Not, hey, you can start, I want to be a radio person. Well, those there really wasn't a bucket for that. So
that's right.
Now there are just, I don't say an infinite number of buckets, but there's just a lot of different buckets out there.
Yeah.
So
there, I have a business degree, in college, and I don't recall ever taking a class in sales. But when I graduated, that was the jobs. That was what I was qualified for.
Right.
I spent pretty much my whole life in sales.
And there wasn't a class in networking either. That was
no.
Yeah.
But you paid $1 for a cup, and you did your networking on Friday night.
Yeah, $1 for a cup
in the fraternity basement.
Well, you know what? But that's and they still don't teach it. And I think the reason, my theory on it is it gets lip service, right, on campus. But the people who are really the teachers, they don't really live it. They don't live it like the average entrepreneur lives it. They've got a job, they get tenure, which really doesn't happen in the business world. There is no tenure in the business world. And so, they do a little bit of networking to get their research and publish and things like that. But generally speaking, they're not doing it.
Yeah.
So,
well, there's, I just lost that. I'm of the age where I'll have an idea, and it's like, well, that's gone now.
Well, you spent all 900 on this idea hierarchy.
Yeah, I had the 900 ideas in the idea hierarchy, and probably one too many cups in the fraternity basement. So
combination of those things.
Yeah. So in the idea hierarchy is something we do. And for boards, retreats, we're just developing the way to do that in the virtual world now, in the virtual space. It's kind of a mystery to people. We figured it out, and so we're able to offer that to organizations, and it's a lot of fun because it's just a lot of fun, and I think that's a big part of work success for me. I say, when you have more fun, you get more done.
Right.
And people that are enthusiastic, they just bring an energy to work and to anything. That's just it's good for business.
Sure. Yeah. If you could go back in time, talk to young Brian in high school, what advice would you whisper in his ear?
Yeah, that's a great question.
And well, here's a better question: would he listen?
He 17-year-old, 15-year-old Brian back in high school, he wouldn't have had the security, the stability to listen to the advice from this
I'm the same way, but anyhow, what advice would you have given him?
But it's a great question, and it's a question that actually has come up before for me. I was a business leader at a youth event the Hugh O'Brien Youth Leadership Program at Loyola University in Chicagoland, where they have, students from around the world come together. There's going to be juniors in high school to be, during the summer. And there was I had a table, and there a bunch of students came through the cafeteria, and they sat at the table, and we had a talk there. And one of the students asked me that question: if you could go back to your high school self and ask, or tell him anything, what would you tell him? And I thought, I had thought about that a little bit. And what I would tell him is, it all works out. And I don't think 15-year-old, 17-year-old Brian would have believed that it's all going to be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the problem is that our definition of what okay is, we just don't know. We don't know at that point in time. It's you have no concept of money, really.
Yeah.
It's my kids in high school, they, get $100, and it's like, wow, they're rich. And it's like, yeah, $100, you know what, that's going to last you till Wednesday with meals. It's they have no concept of money.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't either. What's it cost to live?
Well, I used to cut grass for neighbor ladies for $2.
Yeah.
That's a way back,
Yeah.
And, we talk about being of a certain age. I remember when a gallon of gas and a minute of long distance cost the same.
Yeah.
What is long distance?
I know people used to make money with selling long distance.
Yeah.
Obviously not anymore.
Yeah. You called me a week or two ago, and you're without an appointment, and I saw your name on the phone. I answered the phone, and I thought we used to do that all the time.
Yeah.
And now we've gotten to the point where we have the capability to schedule everything, and we tend to do that. And the spontaneity is maybe we need more of that spontaneity, Frank. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I think texts do that, right? We text each other.
That's true. Yeah.
I've had a couple friends text me today, and just we're getting this incredibly cold weather, right? And I bought a coat for him. He paid for it, but I'm at the mall, and it's like, hey, this is on sale. It's half price. Do you want one? Sure. And so he's like, nice. I've been thinking about you all week.
Nice.
Yeah. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
If you could meet someone from history, who would you want to meet?
Albert Schweitzer is my man.
Why is that?
I mentioned being involved with the Hugh O'Brien Youth Leadership Program. Albert Schweitzer was a fellow that inspired Hugh to start the organization. When Albert Schweitzer was 30 years old, he decided to dedicate his life to the service of his fellow man. And sometimes I think, hey, 50 is the new 30,
right?
For us. But he started a clinic in Lambaréné, Gabon, and he went there to be a doctor about 100 years ago or so, to minister to the bodies of the people there, rather than the typical missionary that is out to save their soul first. And I think he was more effective in both areas because of his approach. But he has some of my very favorite quotes, and one that I use all the time is, I don't know what your destiny will be, but I do know that the only ones among you who will be truly happy are those who have sought and found a way to serve others. That's where happiness comes from. It cannot be pursued. Happiness ensues. It's the result of something. It happens because we find joy in service of others.
There's a lot of truth to that. There's a ton of truth. There's a study that I talked about on this podcast earlier this year or last year. They all kind of meld together after a while. But they did a study. It was actually Northwestern University, and they gave half the people $5 to spend on themselves, right? And the other half the people $5 to spend on somebody else.
Yeah.
And the people who spent money on themselves, that just wore the novelty of that wore off really quickly, I should say. The people who spent money on others, it just didn't get old. Going to buy somebody a cup of coffee. I don't know who.
$5. Yeah. Cool.
Now it wasn't their money, but still, it's the point is, study's a study.
Yeah. I appreciate the science. I tend to think of things anecdotally quite often, and I think you probably remember a tipping point when it became more fun to buy presents for your kids,
yes,
than it was to get presents.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't know if that's to me that's an anecdote that proves the Schweitzer idea. Well, also Albert Schweitzer was from Strasbourg, which is now part of France. But when my great grandfather left there, it was German. So we're potentially related somehow.
Oh, there you go.
Small town Alsace.
You can only hope, right? You can only hope. All right, one last quick question here, and then I want to kind of talk about Braveheart Radio and Braveheart for Kids again. When you're having a bad day, what do you do? What do you do to get yourself out of that funk, to feel better?
I just yanked the cord out of my headset there, Frank. I'm sorry.
I'll edit it out. I've just made a note.
All right, what was the question?
When you're having a bad day, what do you do to make yourself feel better? Do you have bad days?
I yanked the cord out of my headset, so I get a second shot at the question.
I might just leave this in.
You know what? Damn it! That's a good way to go, because humor is what was it? It was Zig Ziglar, or one of the famous guys. Laughter is the best medicine.
Yes.
That is. I don't think there. That to me, that's true. I say when you have more fun, you get more done.
Yeah.
I have 3 simple goals at the start of most projects, and that's have fun, be grateful, get good at it. Have fun. And I do find myself in the why me category sometimes. Oh God, it's just so tough. And it. I try to let that just flow through me instead of fighting the negative feeling, and I find when I try to fight that negative feeling, it gives it energy. It gives it something to resist and say, you know what, I'm just going to let the damn thing flow through me, and I'll be okay.
Interesting. Okay. I think there's some truth to that. There's some, by fighting it, you're kind of keeping it on board, and just let it out. Open the door, right? Open the door and let it out. Let's quickly talk about Braveheart Radio, Braveheart for Kids. How could the audience help you with certainly tuning into Braveheart, the Braveheart Radio show? When does that air?
Braveheart's radio show is 3:00 Central Time, so 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific, 2 in the Mountain Time Zone, and all over the world. And because it is internet radio, it is all over the world on the Voice America Network. Braveheartsradio.org will get you to the Bravehearts Radio show. Braveheartsforkids.org will get you to the Bravehearts for Kids organization. And of course, I always mention, I mention this on the show, I'll mention it here if I may, that if you go to braveheartsforkids.org, you may notice up in the upper right-hand corner, there's a donate now button.
Oh, there you go.
Always a good opportunity to say, help out your favorite charity. And we hope that you'll consider Bravehearts for Kids. Now, we always say doing good anywhere does good everywhere. So if you support another charity, it doesn't hurt us. It makes the world better. That helps us.
That's a great point to stop on. I really appreciate your time. Probably my most fun podcast, to be perfectly honest. There you go.
Have more fun, get more done.
There
Rock
you go.
on. Yeah.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Frank.
To wrap things up, remember, we're looking for some enterprising business types to join our team as franchisees of AmSpirit Business Connections. Our franchisees work with entrepreneurs, sales representatives, and professionals in their area to help them become more successful through networking and the exchange of quality business referrals in a structured weekly morning meeting. This is a unique franchise opportunity, you see, because these meetings are in the morning. A successful business type or professional can add this franchise opportunity onto what they're already doing. Again, all of our franchisees do something else. For a couple hours in the morning, a few mornings a week, these franchisees work the AmSpirit Business Connections model. The rest of the time, they're attorneys, accountants, realtors, coaches, and consultants of various kinds. The wonderful thing is that not only do our franchisees realize a financial gain from operating the AmSpirit Business Connections model, but the business networks that they build and develop become a great source of referrals for their primary business as well. Perhaps you know someone, perhaps you are that someone. Whatever the case, to learn more about the AmSpirit Business Connections franchise opportunity, please contact me using the email in the show notes or the one we provide at the end of this program.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.